What's up, gamers? This is That PlayStation Gamer. Today, yes, Neil Druckmann actually spoke about The Last of Us Part 3, and man, it's disappointing, but at the same time, if there's not a story to tell there, or a story he wants to tell, I kind of understand. So, basically, he was being interviewed by Vanity for The Last of Us Season 2, and they, of course, inevitably brought up The Last of Us Part 3. Now, to just clarify this, Neil, at the end of The Last of Us Part 2 Grounded documentary, Grounded 2 technically, is what it's called, um, basically hinted at the idea of at least having the idea for The Last of Us Part 3. And again, it wasn't even like for sure it was The Last of Us Part 3. It was more like it could have just been a spin off title, it could have been something related to the multiplayer project, which at the point at that recording, I think the game was still in active development. I'm not 100% sure about that. That's so. Basically, he responded with, "I was waiting for this question. I guess the only thing I would say is don't bet on it. Don't bet on there being more Last of Us. This could be it." And apologize if you hear some people below me. They're doing construction downstairs, so fun with that. um, and yeah, that could be the case. And listen, as a Last of Us fan myself, like anyone knows me, you know this is like my shill franchise. This is the one I go to bat for almost all the time. I could tell you right now that I'm fine with The Last of Us Part 2 being the end of The Last of Us. And listen, I'm not saying that like, it was 100% satisfying, we didn't get Ellie, heroically sacrificing herself for the humanity. But I feel like if part two was the end of the story, because either A, Neil doesn't feel like he could tell the story he wants to tell, well enough, or B, and probably most importantly, it'd be something people wouldn't expect, and he knows people wouldn't respond well to it, especially after The Last of Us Part 2's whole situation. I think this is the good call to make if there is no Last of Us Part 3. Now, granted, that's saying there is no Last of Us Part 3. We do not know that for a fact. He's just basically saying at this point, don't bet on it. Don't count all your eggs before, the chickens even lay them at this point. Because, they are working on Intergalactic, which could easily be a 2027 game. And I feel like Naughty Dog is one of those studios that they're kind of weird in the modern context, because back in the day, sorry to keep hearing me kind of pausing and swallowing my spit, fucking dry as hell. I need to take a swig, so let me take a swig out of my Last of Us mug. But basically, Naughty Dog, before Neil Druckmann took over, was kind of like a 2 IP studio, but it was only during the PS3 generation, funny enough. They had Uncharted, then they had The Last of Us, and then they went back to Uncharted, then they went back to The Last of Us. Then now they're going to Intergalactic, and they're kind of just not doing Last of Us Part 3. And listen, I get it. I get if people would be, disappointed at this, but I think the important part for The Last of Us is if there's a story to tell there. And I feel like that's really, at the end of the day, if you want to have a story that means something, a story that, has the same impact as part one or part two had, I don't think you make a game just to make it because it's a popular IP. I think there are plenty of franchises out there that have done themselves in by keep going and just not really think about where they're going. What's the goal here? And even if the story they're trying to tell is a story worth telling, I think you can see that with something like, Gears of War and Halo. I think you can see that with, games like Resident Evil and, other IPs out there where it's like, and even like something like Yakuza, where I've praised the Yakuza developers in the past. But I'm telling you right now, honestly, this kind of from my perspective, I think after Yakuza 6, that should have been it. Like, no more spin-off games, no more anything else, or just move on. Like, that the studio should have moved on to something else they were trying to move on to something else, but then Judgment, had the problems it has. So, yeah. Do I think that we won't get Last of Us Part 3? I don't want to say no, because I do think there's something there. But at the same time, I think the question becomes, do you think it's worth telling? I think that's the question Neil Druckmann has to ask himself. And why do you have to do it with The Last of Us, more in particular? I think with the new IP Intergalactic, they actually have a much more broader, way to get stories they could tell. And I think, as far as writing goes, I'm sorry, I think The Last of Us is more limited than compared to something like Intergalactic. So that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts. It's not much to talk about. It's like Neil Druckmann was basically saying, maybe you won't get The Last of Us Part 3. Maybe we won't. Maybe we will, and he's just, trying to, bait us into kind of giving up, and then, surprise, here's The Last of Us Part 3. I don't know. That could be very easily the case, too. So, yeah. So, until next time, guys, this is That PlayStation Gamer sign out. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that YouTube algorithm BS. And let me know what you think. If The Last of Us Part 2 was the end of The Last of Us story, how would you feel about it? Personally, like I said, I'd be happy with it. We're not so much happy with it, but more like accepting of it. Like, okay, okay. I'm ready to move on to Intergalactic Gateway. So, yeah, until next time, bye, peace out. Don't blah, 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 blah. Yeah, again, can you tell I'm not using a script here? Literally, you can see my screen. I don't have a script, so bye.